friends, today we are thrift flipping. Let's get started. For project number 1, I found these wood rounds at the City Mission thrift store. They said $3.49, but when I got up to the register to pay, they were actually half off. I wish I had picked up all 4, but I only grabbed 2. Anyways, I took these home and I did sand it down. I did not record that part, but now I'm going to paint them with this color sample that I got from Home Depot. It was one of the Oops paints, I guess. It was like 50 cents. And I thought it was a beautiful shade of blue. So I'm just covering my whole wood round in this color. While my paint is drying, we're gonna head out to the garage, and I found this little railing with spindles on the side of the road, and I thought it would be perfect for some riser legs. So I pulled the little spindles off. I pulled 4 of them off, and I'm gonna start cutting them down like where it naturally would make sense. So you can see where I'm pointing to there. I'm just gonna put my miter saw where that little indent is, and I'm going to cut 4 of the legs down. I took them inside to give them a coat of white paint and then realized they were way too tall to be riser legs. So I do end up cutting these down a little bit more. I don't show that part, but you'll see them shorter here in just a minute. So taking my ruler, I wanted to make sure everything was spaced out evenly. I only wanted 3 legs on this piece. So once I had them where I wanted, I drew a circle with my pencil around to mark the spots, added some wood glue, put my little legs back on, and then I did clamp them down. I probably should have done one at a time because they were slipping and sliding all over the place, so I spared you from watching that mess. But the next day, once they were dry, once the wood glue was dry, I came in with my macrame cord and just hot glued it right down into that indent there. And I thought we were gonna stop here, but after I kept looking at it, I thought it looked a little too nautical, which is just not my taste. I hate it. So back to the drawing board, I grabbed my heat gun, removed that macrame cord, and then I took my ink Waverly chalk paint, which is just a black color, and I painted that whole wood round. I did leave the legs in the white color that I originally painted those. Recently, I have loved using scrapbooking materials on my DIY projects. So I found this adhesive stencil. It's kind of like a fence looking, and I think it's meant for paper crafting. That's the aisle I found it in at Hobby Lobby anyways, but I thought it would look really cool on this riser. So I placed it down and then grabbed my mineral color chalk paint, and I'm just starting to smear that on top of this stencil. I've never used one of these before. It's like a screen stencil, and I thought it was really cool the way it worked. So I smudged that paint all over and then lifted it up just a little bit so that I could make sure that it was not making a mess. And to my surprise, it looked really beautiful. And it was meant to have some of those like holes looking parts in the fence there. So I grabbed my heat tool to dry the paint here before moving on to the next section. And then I just repeated this process until just the center of that round was covered. And how cool does this look? I absolutely love that look. It kind of reminds me of like fishnet stockings or something. But anyways, I took my mineral chalk paint again and just dry brushed over my legs to give them a slight distressing and tie it all together. Last, I added that macrame back to the center little indent there, and that was it for this piece. So let me know, are you into the nautical theme? I know it is very popular right now, or coastal. I am not really into that, and I've really been trying to add some color to my projects, but I just wasn't loving that piece. So what do you think of the revamp? It has been a while since I've participated in a monthly challenge, so this week's video is part of the monthly Thrift Flip $10 and Under challenge hosted by Savannah from Savvy Crafts with Savannah, Shayna from Robinson Repurposing, and co-hosting this month is Megan from Point and Polish. I will link everyone's channels in my description box below along with the playlist. Check out all of the other creators for tons of thrifting inspiration. For project number 2, I got this bread box. It was from the Goodwill for $4.99, and it just opens up. There is a little crack on the inside of it where the bottom of it would have been. Nothing that we can't fix. So I took it out to my garage, gave it a good scuff sand, and this image on it was actually like a raised image if you rubbed your hand across it. So I had to sand that part down really well, or else you would have seen it through the paint once we painted it. So to fix that little crack, I'm just using my medium Starbond glue along with an accelerator. This is not the Starbond accelerator, but it works just the same. So I'm just going to fill in this crack, and then I dropped my camera when spraying the accelerator, so I didn't get that part, but you just spray it on and it instantly hardens. Next, I took this lightweight spackle from the Dollar Tree just to smooth out those cracks so that it wouldn't still be visible. I took some 220 grit sandpaper, sanded that down, and then using my little handy dandy tabletop vacuum, cleaned that all up. And I will link him in my description box below. So to paint this, I am using my moss colored Waverly chalk paint. I did paint the entire outside and then the lid, both the inside and the outside of the lid in this color, giving it 2 coats. I did not paint the inside because we're going to do something different there. So I found this adhesive stencil vinyl at Michael's. It was on clearance, so I picked it up. I'd wanted to try something like this. I could tell as soon as I opened this, it was going to be a mistake. Like, just look at those wrinkles. I did try to smooth them out with my little, why can't I think of that? Like that little brayer tool scraper from Cricut. And I lifted it up off of the surface and tried to smooth it back down the best I could. My machine just ate this thing up. I didn't get a clip of that, but don't buy this stuff.
The mat, and it ripped off part of my backer. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a fail of a product, and no wonder it was on clearance.
So instead I went back to my Dollar Tree contact paper. This is what I like to use whenever I'm printing out a stencil on my Cricut because I'm just gonna end up throwing it away and I don't wanna use expensive vinyl. So I cut out this little paw print and then my dog's name, which is Sarge, because we are turning this little bread box into a dog toy box. So stinking cute. But I've had some people ask me to share my design space process using my Cricut. If anyone else is interested in that, let me know. I'm happy to create that for you guys. I'm not a Cricut affiliate, so I just haven't made a video dedicated to my Cricut design space yet, but I can certainly do that. Just let me know if anyone else is interested in seeing it. Using my makeup sponge, I added 2 thin layers of white chalk paint to my stencil and then used my heat tool to dry it and lifted it off. And how cute. I just love his little name at the bottom right corner of his toy box. For the paw prints, I am placing those on the inside of the lid. So I'm using this a little bit different. I'm having the lid actually be like the top of how the box opens, and you'll see that here in just a minute. So to fill the inside, I decided I wanted to use some fabric to line it with. I had this fabric left over from my bench in my living room. I'll insert a picture of that for you guys to see, but I thought it would be a perfect accent for the inside of his box. And knowing that he's going to be putting his toy, like pulling his toys out of it. I'll be putting them back in, but that he'll be pulling them out of it all the time. I wanted something that would hold up and didn't want to just put paint. So I am using some decoupage glue. This is a terrible angle, so I didn't film too much of this part of the project, but you can get the idea. I just decoupaged, Mod Podge, whatever you want to use. I added this fabric down, cut off anything that was extra, and this I think is going to hold up really nicely with some wear and tear from a dog. So here is how it turned out, and I just think this is absolutely adorable. I had been looking for a bread box to make over for a while now, and I'm so happy I found one, but I do have a true bread box in my kitchen, so I wanted to turn it into something else.
Sarge, what's in here? What's in here? Is that your toys? Do you like it? What's in there? Yeah, get your toys. Which one are you gonna pick? Oh, one on the bottom. What'd you pick? The raccoon? You got your raccoon? Hard to film. Tug of war, huh? Yeah. It's hard to film.
He is just so handsome. On to project number 3. So I found this Farmhouse metal tray at the Goodwill. It was $2.99. And I am going to strip this white paint and faux enamelware look off using my citrus strip. This thing was a pain to get all of this paint off. There was really only like one layer of white paint and then some of that black around the edges to make it look like that enamelware. But this stuff did not want to come off of that metal. I wish I knew what kind of paint they had used, because I have never gotten paint to stick to metal the way this paint was sticking. I think I spent half of a Saturday stripping this paint off, going back and forth with the citrus strip and then scraping it at least 4 to 5 times, if not more. But once I finally got it off, I'm taking my Rust-Oleum spray paint in Heirloom White, and I gave it 2 coats. No, I think I gave it 3 coats because it was still peeking through a little bit. Next, I'm taking this flat reed that I got from Amazon, and I can link that in my description box below. But I'm going to start cutting down long, narrow, well, of course they're narrow, long strips to fit across the center of this metal tray. I cut down about 7 strips of this flat reed, and I started out gluing them down in the middle and then worked my way out because I knew that there was going to be like one piece that needed cut, but I would rather have like 2 pieces on either end needing cut than just one. I thought it might have looked a little odd. So taking my E6000, that is the adhesive I wanted to use here to make sure there was a nice secure bond. And then I just placed my reed strips down, working my way again from the center out. Once I had all of my strips down, I took my X-Acto knife to cut the pieces that were a little too wide on either end, and this stuff cuts down super, super easy. Then I just stuck some full paint bottles and some rocks from my gravel driveway on top of it overnight to dry. So I wanted to make this like a tiny little riser, and I grabbed these little cube pieces that you can find at the Dollar Tree as my feet, and I just lined them up all the way across the bottom. To adhere them to the metal, I'm using this Starbond glue again, and at first I had put the glue on the wood piece, attached it to the metal, and it literally just popped right off. It didn't stick, it didn't do anything. So then I thought, well, maybe I'll add a dab of hot glue, but I didn't want to add the hot glue. So instead I grabbed the accelerator, I put the glue on the metal, sprayed the accelerator on my wood piece, then stuck it down, and that worked out perfectly. So I just repeated that all the way around, and I did not end up adding those blocks across the short end of my tray, only the 2 long sides. To cover up the raw edges of The reed, I just took this black sisal rope that I've got from Hobby Lobby in my stash, hot glued that down around the edges, and that was it for this one. I ended up styling it a few different ways so you could see several different options of what the possibilities are with this piece. First, I just added some little decorative display items, some candles, and some, what are those called? Beaded garlands? That's it. Next, I stuck some candles and a little bit of greenery. I really wanted to make sure you could still see the bottom wood part of this tray, so I didn't want to throw too much on top of it. I think this is my least favorite option. Next, I just have these little clear greenery DIY projects that I did several months ago on my channel. I think this is my favorite option as it is very clean, minimal, and modern, which is just my style. But I'd love to know what you would do with this tray. My total for these 3 Thrift Flip projects came out to be $9.50, so just under budget. Let me know which one of these was your favorite, and that's all I got for you today, guys. I'll see you in the next one.